I think we should be good now. And the transcripts. Yeah, we are live.
Yep. Yeah, we are live.
The only thing I didn't check is the activation of the transcripts.
I think it's active.
Yeah, we'll check it later. No problems. I don't know if records, captions. Yeah, no worries. So hi everyone. Welcome to our first meeting. Finally, we did it. It's quite challenging to schedule a meeting with 7 time zones. So yeah, the idea is to have a first discussion regarding our vision, our plans regarding this working group, developer experience working group. And I already shared the document. So it's a draft. It's just representing my perspective on first the definition of the developer experience. I think we can start from there. Do we agree on a common understanding on what developer experience means for async API? Then a proposal in terms of the missing capabilities that we have, and also the capabilities that we currently have in our tooling, and what kind of tooling we need to focus on, because we have around 60 repo, and it's quite too much to fix developer experience in 60 repo. So we need to choose our battles and focus on the user facing tooling. So we selected 4. We selected CLI Studio and the IDEs extension. So we have async API, VS Code extension, and IntelliJ. And then I also put different stages. So we focus for now on the design, and then we iterate on the different stages. This is again just my perspective. If we take the whole developer, let's say, life cycle, whenever you interact with async API, you can you start with the design phase, and then you implement an application. So this is the develop phase. Then you have deploy and evolve. But we can discuss this as well. Yeah, so, and then we have the metrics and how to measure success. I don't know if we'll have enough time to cover this. But yeah, let's just start with the definitions first. So do we have a common understanding of developer experience? And we can just have a round table, like everyone can express his perspective on what developer experience means in general, and also for async API, and how even you can share also your frustration and your feeling when you interact with our tooling. I think that's also valid. And this is the link that I also put in the chat. So who wants to go first?
I think I should go first. For me, I read the issue, and I think we are on the same page. For me, developer experience is the same as you said. It's about minimizing the developer's friction, and what kind of challenges developers face when they start using async API in their different stages of design, develop, deploy, or evolve. Or maybe, in my honest opinion, we should, as you said, we should start by focusing on the design. And I think this is the most important part for us, because if at the first cycle someone can design a first draft without any issues, without big challenges with our toolings, then we have gone a long way, and then we can focus on the develop and maybe deploy. But design, as you said, should be the main focus.
Thanks for that. Pavel?
Yep, I agree with you. And Kuda that. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce correctly your nickname.
I can say Khoda or Koda if you can pronounce Khe,
Kuda.
basically. Yeah.
Okay, Kuda.
Yeah.
Good. Pedro, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I think also we are on the same page. I mean, from my experience, yeah, basically, I've been focused on CLI, and yeah, I have observed so far like many frictions because we haven't taken into account, this developer experience. We just have been developing new features, new improvements, but we always left out of the picture, the users or developers in terms of usability. So yeah, I really I agree with this draft or these objectives. Yeah.
That's good. Good to hear. And there is also something related to the focus of this developer experience, because it can means different things, especially on the persona we are targeting. It can be a user, but what is the meaning of users? Do we talk about developers that are contributing to async API? Or we are talking about consumers that are using async API tool? As a first initial, let's say, target, I think the one that is using async API like daily, interacting with the CLI and trying to achieve something, I think that should be the focus of this working group. Even though like later it can be, this can be the focus of another working group, or even a second iteration of this working group once we've solved the main problems for the consumer, or let's say the non-contributor. I don't know how to call it. So it's that we are talking about users that are using Studio to do something, right? To design an event-driven application, right? Or deploy Kafka with an async API file, for instance. You agree with this one part?
So how should we call these consumers, like developers, or because yeah, they're not actually users, right? Users is like a very generic concept, right?
It is, yeah. I think consumers, async API consumers, without of course overlapping with the concept of a consumer in an async API document,
Yeah.
or consuming application. I think consumers is more relevant. Don't know. What do you think? Pavel, Budak, you have
For each stage, I think our users might be a little bit different. For example, for the first capability of design, someone who comes to use async API to maybe design some initial drafts or maybe some initial proof of concepts, then they are our users. I think somebody, maybe they are using CLI, or maybe they are using Visual Studio Code, or maybe a Studio to write the initial draft, or maybe put their ideas into an async API document. I think that is our users, how we like pave the way for them so they don't face so many challenges.
Yeah, fully agree. Fully agree. So we can just keep calling them consumers for now. And of course, between different stages, yeah, you might have different kind of users, because if you go to the deploy phase, you will have DevOps engineers trying to do something like deploying complete infrastructure, for instance. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so then we can move to these stages. So we have 4 stages that I put there. Like we have design, develop, deploy, and evolve. I think it helps to have this, categorization of what we have to do in this tooling. So we've mentioned this for tooling. We have CLI Studio and ID extensions. Of course, you can have more stages, but if we start just from the design, I think it's a good way to iterate and improve the whole and the entire experience for async API users or consumers. Do you see any other stages or any stage that's may not make sense, or any questions so far, or any feedback?
I think this is all right to have like these 4 stages: design, develop, deploy, evolve, with the main focus on the design, and then because this is where we have lots of users, and then in the next stages they might decrease. So yeah.
Yeah, so if we go then, Pavel, you have anything regarding this stages?
I'm trying to understand what to do. Looks like we're trying to check that these 4 bullets are valid for us. And looks like right now we are not digging into them. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea is just to categorize these different stages of the life cycle, like developer when he wants to do to achieve something. We can talk about like designing an async API document or an async API application before even implementing that. So basically what happens is that I want to create an application. So I write an async API file. Then I will go to Studio or start just from my IDE, use the CLI, and then I have a prototype, right? So this phase is like defining and have the concept, like from the concept to a kind of a document or a contract. And then from this contract or document, I can start the implementation phase, and then from that point, I might use the code generator to generate like some boilerplate code or generate my application, or even write it by hand, right? Or use any extension that I have available in my framework. And then once I'm done with the application, then I move to the deploy phase. So I'm deploying this application somewhere. And then once it's deployed, it's used by the consumers. Then new requirements come, and then I need to do another version of that. So this is something that is not managed yet by our tooling. So what happens if I have a new schema version, a new application? So how to also dig deeper and solve that particular point, which is the evolve phase. But of course, you can go as far as you want, and you can even have 7 stages if you want. Like you can cover the security phase, for instance. But we can, to simplify it, I just put like 4 for now. And then if we solve for one stage like design, and then the question is, when does the design start and when does it end? I think we might have different open like or views on that. So for you, when does the design start and when does it end? the design phase.
When it starts and when it ends?
Yeah.
Okay, looks like it starts from a whiteboard, and after that specification comes, and looks like on this initial stage I already have a problem because I can't use our studio. Unfortunately, there are plenty of bugs, and that's why I have a question: do we have SDEV surveys results or not? Maybe we already know some facts about our user expectations and the issues.
So you mean when we have so it starts when you have, let's say, the whiteboard, you're writing something, the concepts, and then it ends when you have the specification in studio?
Well, let me try to understand better your question. Well, when I'm crafting from scratch my specification, I don't use our tools, unfortunately. I use my tools crafted for myself and for known folks. And it's all because of next thing that I can't write correct specification inside our studio, and I can't validate it through our JSON schemas because they are still buggy. So as end user of our specification, I have already faced with issue on first stage to design because I don't have right tools and stable to do it. So that's why I asked you. Maybe we already have survey results of our customers, users, and we can analyze them to understand better what we can do and how to improve the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely valid. I think we need at some point to run a consumer survey and ask a couple of consumers how they are using the specification, because right now we are just starting from our own assumption, right? So completely agree. I already put some questions, by the way, in Slack. I think we can reuse a couple of questions and target these kind of consumers. So when they are interacting with the Sync API, what they are trying to do. And from there, we can also validate this hypothesis that we have on these stages, and we can have an answer of also the design. What does design means? Because for me, for instance, the design means that I have a concept in my mind, or I start with like gathering requirements, right? And from these requirements, I have some prototypes. So the prototype can be an Async API document with the documentation that I can share with the users of the application to validate this application before implementing it. But it can also end with, so it can end with the documentation, or it can end with the prototypes. You already have some running application, especially if you use code generator, for instance. So you have already a mock or something that you show, okay, this is my application that is publishing messages or consuming messages. So yeah, that's my perspective on that. Huda, I think you're on mute.
For somebody to reach the design phase, for them to start maybe making something, there is a learning curve, right? They have to know JSON schema, or maybe Avro schema or some other kind of schema specification, and then they need to know the Async API spec as well, how to write an Async API document, where to put the servers, and where to put the channels, how does the operation works and everything else. I think for us to maybe bring the curve just a little bit down to make it a little bit flatten. I think if we want to improve the developer experience, then I think we have already started working on the visual designer. And I think for a developer to have a better experience, the async API file shouldn't be something that someone comes to write. I think if somebody just have some ideas like, oh, okay, I have a broker, I have a client that is for example, WebSocket client, my application will do this. These are the operation that it needs to do. Then for them to go through the first phase, the design phase, they need to know lots of things. I mean, by having a visual designer in the studio that we currently are working on, I think this would make the design phase much shorter, and then user doesn't need to know even how the specification file looks like. Okay, I have this server and these are the information. I have these channels, I have these operations, and then doesn't even in the meaning of async API channels. Maybe they want to just define the operation that they want to perform. And or maybe we having a JSON, having a schema editor also helps a lot, because I don't need to know the structure of a JSON schema object to write it. I can maybe use an editor to write it. So yeah, in my honest opinion, the design phase, the biggest challenge is the learning curve that a user needs to know before even start to use the async API toolings. That's the big challenge.
Completely agree. I think this is one of the reasons probably you also created this desktop application, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So it's easy to beat this learning curve, because we can provide API kit, something like Storybook, and we can create a specification-centric solution to fetch all needed building blocks from user specifications to provide to them some kind of catalog of servers, of operations, of messages, of bindings, and etc. And it will help them to simplify creation of new specifications, because it will be some kind of building from blocks. And that's what I tried to propose maybe a few months ago, or half a year ago, when I have wrote when I opened issue on our studio spec repo. I don't remember. So I think that the best way is to provide API kit, something similar to Storybook, and it will be totally blessed for us and for our users.
Yeah, I completely agree. Great. So I think what is missing is this visual editor in the document that I wrote in the draft. I think we'll need to add it in Studio. So this is something that can simplify the design phase completely. So if we move to the tooling that we selected, so I selected, so we still need to agree on this tooling.
Sorry,
so I
Samir.
put, yeah, go ahead.
One question about the stages. Regarding the last one that you wrote, the evolve stage, is it considering also is it like a kind of maintenance phase as well, or or is evolve? I mean, or is more, or maintenance is considered as a part of every stage? And I don't know if I understood properly this evolve phase.
Evolve here means that you have a new requirement coming, and you need to iterate on your application. So especially if this new requirement is bringing a breaking change. So you need to handle it in a way that you make a good transition from the current application to the future application. So also provide all the tooling, necessary tooling to do that, right? Like versions, how to handle versioning, for instance, for async API. So the maintenance, might be, I will not say part of it, because you can just maintain your application like in the develop phase, so that's common. But here we are talking about the async API specification, and you are bringing a major change. So you need to evolve it. It's related to the evolution of your async API documents, right? So that's the idea.
Okay, cool.
Hi, Ashish.
Hello, people. I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Yeah.
So you can still share with us your perspective of developer experience. So far, what we've mentioned is, so we did like a roundtable regarding the definition of developer experience. And then now we are just covering the design phase, and we are using that document that I've drafted. So we are covering now the design phase and the tooling that we have.
Yeah, so basically, me and Ivan were also discussing regarding this. Like for the extension part, like can we like have some technology? Does anybody know any technology so that like we can have one package which can be shifted over to multiple editors? Like we don't have to make multiple repositories for each editor. Like me and Ivan were discussing, because VS Code is too different from NeoVim. It is much different from IntelliJ, but there are some similarities. Like LSPs use one idea which we came across was LSP, and another thing regarding the web extension also, like we can have a single package which verifies the files and everything. It provides the LSP experience, and we can have custom plugins like through which they will be shifted over to the editor.
Are those plugins something that might be like cross-platform, maybe? Like can be used by IntelliJ as well?
Yeah, something like that. Like there is a single package which can be consumed by our extensions which are making, so that we are not doing the same work in multiple repositories. You get me? Like something like CLI. Like in CLI, what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring generator, Modelina, everything together, and we recently shifted our actions also to CLI. So it's like a whole bunch of experience at once. I hope I'm getting it.
Yeah, I see your point. We didn't enter yet this level of detail, like in terms of implementation, but this point is completely valid. I think we'll get into it once we cover the extension topic. So right now, the question I have is more on at higher level. So I just put there, 4 tools. So we have Studio, CLI, and these 2 extensions. We have VS Code and IntelliJ. Do you see that's enough, or do you see something missing in terms of tooling, or something that I've added that I should not add there? Because the rationale behind it is these are like consumer-facing tooling. So, and this tooling mainly also interact with other building blocks that we have. So if we take Studio, so my starting point is Studio. I'm designing a document, and then I can generate code. Then I'm using the generator, for instance. So Studio connects the different tools, integrate with different tools to provide this experience. So this is the rationale behind it. And we can have then this similar approach with extensions. So we can go far in terms of how we enhance and improve the extensions in different IDs. So that's the idea. So how do you see it? Do you think is it enough? Is it too much in terms of tooling that I put there?
One more thing, like just something to add, like one thing which can be added is conversion from different APIs. Like Jonas was also talking about this regarding the future of converter. Basically, currently we're just converting from one async API version to another async API version, if I'm not wrong. In
Yeah,
Studio also, in CLI also, everywhere,
correct.
as far as you can see. And there are multiple schemas which can be converted to async API. Namely, there is Open API, and there is
Yeah,
Postman collections, and numerous other, like the API client, the things.
yeah,
So this thing is one thing which we could add.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is then related more on the onboarding phase, or so when you start the design, you're coming from a
Yeah,
different kind of API, or you're just migrating. So for now, we are
yeah,
just dealing with the migration. But let's say
yes,
you
yes,
have an API and you want to switch it to event-driven, and you start from Open API to Async API. So
yeah.
that's a capability that we definitely add. Yeah.
The point which I wanted to make, you are absolutely correct. That thing, what it achieves is basically, I have interacted with my folks in college, with my community, and what they want, like learning a new technology is always difficult. But if they can migrate and learn how it goes and see the projects evolve to event driven, that would be great thing also.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea. So what do you think, guys, in terms of tooling that we currently have?
Rest everything is fine. Just um, if we had to talk, like we were talking about collaboration, but I don't think it will be feasible for now because collaboration is something which is not required from us. We are not some like, let's say, collaboration can be done by themselves also. We don't need to provide the storing of schemas on our servers and all those things, as we are discussing that time also, I believe.
You mean live collaboration?
Yeah, live collaboration, like having
Yeah,
a record.
yeah, I see. I think this is something, yeah, it's way too advanced
Yeah,
for studio.
basically, we
You
should
can
firstly
put,
get our stuff sorted out
yeah,
before we move to other stuff.
yeah, exactly. So then you all agree that we need to focus on this 4 tools, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that will also simplify how we move forward in terms of features that we currently have, to see if is there any frustrations in terms of capabilities that we have. So if we take like the CLI, for instance, I've already listed what is there. So checkbox, for instance, that means, yeah, the capability is there. Then something that is not supported, yeah, we can just create issues for it and drive it. So these tools will support the missing capabilities. But something important that I will also want to discuss is how do we want to shape this tooling, right? So we have now, for example, we have Studio and IDEs extension, like base code extension. The IDEs are much more powerful in editing an async API document, right? So do we want to invest time on editing capabilities that we have in Studio versus just invest on what we have in base code, for instance, or IntelliJ? So invest in these extensions and keep the minimum in Studio, or keep the feature that makes sense. So for instance, the registry, the catalog, for instance, the sharing features. So you can share there. So you have like something uh, online, so you can share it with another consumer. So yeah, any ideas there?
Yep. So I'm not sure that it will be right decision to rely on JetBrains IDE, because it's really hard to push them to fix issues with our specification. Also, as once or twice sorry, once or twice.
I take your time.
Anyway, in the last year, they broke my plugin once or twice, and it was really hard to push them, to reach them out and ask them to fix their behavior. So I think that it will be better to craft something like a headless catalog with core features, which can be consumed by our solutions like Studio, like Visual Studio Code extension, JetBrains, and other tools from us or from our users. So move core to headless solution, something like catalog with indexing, dereferencing, and etc. And on top of it, build our visual solutions.
Okay, so it's like what you guys have in the building blocks working group, right? So provide like building blocks for other extensions to build their own experience.
Yep.
Okay, see. I think it makes sense, yeah, because otherwise you will just duplicate the effort, and it will also make the maintenance complex. So imagine, especially if you have if you want to have the consistency in the experience, so you want to provide the same look and feel, like between IntelliJ and the base code, for instance.
Well, I'm not sure the same look and feel. It's a killer feature for us, because I know folks who are working with our specification inside Vim with their own custom plugin, and looks like, for me, main reason to participate in our users experience group is to provide rules how to interact correctly with our specification, how to write it correctly, and how to evolve it into tests or rank applications by integrations with us or our partners like Microx, Red Hat, and others.
So it's more on sharing these best practices and guidelines, let's say.
Yeah, because we are owners of our specification, and looks like only we know how to work with our specification better and how to craft it correctly to get all benefits of our tools and our partners who are working with us.
Okay, so it's more an integration, let's say, integration framework, especially regarding this, regarding the tooling build. But this is then different than what we will have in the building blocks. So building blocks is fixing like the core, let's say, core tooling. We have the parser, for instance, we have the generator. And I think you also cover the registry. I think you've also mentioned the registry there, because at some point we also need this feature. We need to integrate with the registry. So if you do it in Studio, you need some API to have the access to the different registries. So if we move then to CLI, is there Studio? I didn't put the IntelliJ. I think you're the maintainer, Pavel, of IntelliJ. I didn't checked what is supported right now and what we want to do, like what is missing.
So you can let me check. So we can store our specification in local workspace. We can render async API specification, and we can validate specification through our JSON
okay.
schema. Also, as write it without completion.
Okay. And what do you think of supporting then the extensions in terms of like the authoring part? We say the extension should have more features, including even the visual editor, for instance, that we have now in Studio, move to the extension part. And we have some like building blocks or a framework if someone else want to build this kind of experience. And then in Studio, we need to focus on the catalog part, for instance, or the sharing features. Or we have just basic editor, like read-only editor, right?
Okay,
So that's
I think my pain is that we don't have any rules how to split correctly our specification and how to validate each part of our specification, like servers, like channels and messages. Because when I'm working with our specification inside JetBrains, I want to split as much as it possible and reuse as much as it possible. And unfortunately, without common strategy how to split, it's really hard for me to implement company's validation through our schemas. So for me, it's tier 1 object to close.
When you say split the sync API document, you mean the component, the schema, which part of it?
Components and schemas.
Components and schemas. Okay.
Yeah, for example, I have bunch of common security schemas to connect to my Kafka or IBM worker, for example, and I want to extract them, put them in a dedicated directory, and not only include them, but also validate in case of any external changes from workers and so on. And it's for now it's impossible in general solution because my plugin can't identify correctly those blocks.
I see. So that's something that should be provided by like a building block, like as part of the registry, or the validation needs to understand.
I think that it's common story for us and for building blocks and for developer experience. Also, because we need to decide how we want to provide this functionality through extension field, or maybe we will introduce some kind of native identifier to understand the right time with which part right now we are working in Studio or in plugins for other ideas, for example, or maybe in CLI.
Yeah, it can definitely be another tool that can handle this part. Yeah. Huda, you're on it.
If I understand it correctly, you have a set of components, right? A set of messages or maybe a set of security schemes that when you are creating an async API document, you want to use this specific. For example, if you are trying to secure your server, you don't want to write the entire thing or to like copy paste it. You just want an option to like connect this server to this specific security schema, and then without any copy pasting, and just reference it in an easier way, like just like reuse different part of components, right? A different component and schemas.
Yep, it's the easiest part because we already have references, but it's tough when I store servers or security schemas outside of my repo, and with them other folks are working, and I want to have native solution to be sure that made changes will not break server or other component, and that's why I'm talking about union way for identification of components. So I can open JSON, and inside I will see something like async API component in URN format, something like, for example, server or message thread for example, and it will be enough for me or for tool which I'm using to validate through dedicated schema. We already have a bunch of schemas inside our JSON schema repo, and I just want to know how to choose correct schema to use for validation.
If I
Okay,
understand it, it's more. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, there is a set of JSON schemas. You mean JSON schemas for message payloads, right? Or maybe for other things?
For example, for message trade, for channel trade, for I don't know, for tag, for example, and without extra key inside of this document, it's just ordinary JSON document, and you will not be sure how to validate it correctly, and that's what I want to achieve. I want to bring ID field in each of our components that can be extracted from our specification to identify it outside and choose right schema for validation.
You have an issue that describe this problem already somewhere?
Yep, in plugin for JetBrains ID, and I think that in our spec repo too.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can send us a link in the developer working group, I think that would be to see how we can integrate also into the roadmap that we have, because I see like an overlap with building blocks. I understand it like as a referencing, as part of the reference, like a way to reference in a smart way without breaking the changes, right? Like identifying these component and schemas whenever I use them. So it can be completely different tooling or as part of the spec or the parser, for instance. So the way we parse the async API document, we understand this referencing, and we ensure that they are not breaking the changes, for instance. Is it correct what I'm saying, or?
Yep, it's correct.
Okay.
I understood why you don't understood my pain, because we're talking about workflow through parser, when we can build correct syntax tree and they identify properly each node in our document. And my pain is about when I don't know what this file is about, but like I'm sure that it came from OpenAPI or async API specification. So yeah, I will add link to this issue for the discussion.
Great. So 1 minute left. I think we mostly like had a common understanding on the goal of this working group. We are aligned on the definition of the developer experience, so that's a good thing. So the next step then for me will be to cover the vision. So what is the next thing to do in terms of the tasks? I already put three things there. So first, we need to remove the friction in the capabilities that we are already supporting in different toolings. And also, some of them, if they are not making sense, we can ensure that, yeah, for instance, what I've mentioned regarding Studio, do we invest more time on the editing capabilities that we have in the editor, or we keep it at minimum? So that's something that, yeah, we can definitely do. And also supporting missing capabilities. So what is missing? Monitor and share our developer experience metrics. And in the next meeting, we can also discuss about the metrics, because this is the goal of the developer working group, developer experience working group. It's not to develop all the features that are missing, but more on having the great developer experience possible, and help like spread this kind of mindset into how the maintainers are doing in terms of contributions. So have this mindset whenever they develop something, especially in this tooling that we have. So yeah, anyone wants to bring something else before closing the meeting?
Samit, I had one point to add. Should we also have something like a vision regarding docs for developer experience? Because I believe a proper docs or a better or interactive docs can also appeal to a better developer experience in terms of the first API design.
Yes, definitely. This is part of removing the friction. So removing the friction is a general, like, let's say, concept. That means we do whatever it takes to remove that friction. That's it. So meaning, for example, CLI. In CLI, we have the installation time that is taking more than 1 minute, right? So we need to reduce that time. Whenever a user have an error, so in this error, we need to document it in a better way, right? And also by understanding our metrics, because now we are tracking some metrics in the CLI, and we have some system error, and of course we have validation error. So this validation error comes from the users or consumers that are validating async API document. But system errors means the user get an exception that he should not get in the first place. We need to understand these exceptions, and we need to solve them. So we need to hide it in a way and solve that problem, and also give the ability or possibility to this consumer to trigger and create an issue, because this is not done today. So probably user get an exception and he's gone and he's frustrated. So he should be able to create an issue in the tooling that we have. So create an issue in the CLI, and having this stack trace, of course, without anonymized stack trace, without private data. because right now we have plenty of errors that are triggered by just looking the current insight. For instance, in the last week, we had almost 1,000 system errors in the CLI, which is huge. So we need to minimize that, right? So that's the goal. And documentation, yeah, definitely, it's part of it. So having great documentation, the way also we are designing CLI, so having this framework that you've done, Ashish, that gives you like guiding. So you are assisted by this UI whenever you are using CLI. It's not boring. So and not surprise the user with this error messages. So that's part of it. And if anything doesn't make sense when someone is achieving a goal, we need just to reduce the steps, meaning some steps will be also removed, right? So yeah, that's the idea. We're good. Next one in 2 weeks. Great. See you guys.
See you, Samir. Thanks.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. See you.